This is Michael Woodward, and this is Season 2, Episode 56 of the Jumblethink Podcast.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast, where we interview incredible entrepreneurs who have taken their big ideas and dreams and turned them into reality. We interview these dreamers, makers, innovators, and influencers, learn their tips, and share them with you so you can make your dreams and ideas become a reality too. Our guest on today's episode is Christopher Plota. More about Troy in a moment. On Monday's episode, our guest is Patrick McGinnis. He is the author of the international bestseller, The 10% Entrepreneur, A Guide to Becoming an Entrepreneur Without Quitting Your Day Job. The book has been featured by the Financial Times, the BBC, MSNBC, CNN, Entrepreneur, Fast Company, Forbes, Fortune, and many other media outlets worldwide. It has been translated into more than 10 languages, including Spanish, Korean, Chinese, Japanese, and Mongolian. It is a super fun episode. Make sure to check out Monday's episode with Patrick McGinnis. Now let's jump into today's interview. Hey there, welcome to the Jumblethink Podcast. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We have an incredible guest. Before we jump into the interview, I want to encourage you, wherever you like to listen to podcasts, head on over, click that subscribe button, and never miss an episode of the Jumblethink Podcast. If you want to listen on iTunes, all you have to do is go to jumblethink.com/iTunes. And if you love Spotify, it's jumblethink.com/Spotify. Those links will take you right to the app where you can click that subscribe button. We've made it real easy for you. So go ahead, take a moment, go on over to your favorite place to listen to podcasts and click subscribe. I am super excited about my guest today. His name is Christopher Plota, and he is a world-renowned photographer and also a tech entrepreneur now, doing cool stuff. Troy, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Michael. So glad to be here. I appreciate it so much.
Now, tell us a little bit about, you've got your photography business, which you've done for over 30 years now, and you also are starting this tech startup around the world of photography and motion graphics. Tell us the name of the business, what your role is, and kind of evolution of what you're doing now.
Okay, great question. So right now, our focus is Plotaverse, which is our digital sharing platform, and as well as like what holds our suite of apps that we're making. We're just now into 2 years officially of doing this, and we kind of blew up last year, and we got App of the Year in 2017, went up to number 1 in the App Store, and never really thought I'd be a tech entrepreneur, but here I am.
Seems so often that we end up in these unexpected journeys. For you, I want to back up and talk a little bit about your origin story before we get into what you're doing today. Now, tell us, you started photography at 13, started your first studio at 21. Tell us about that journey of discovering photography as an outlet that you really connect with and wanted to do.
Okay, so ever since I was a kid, I always loved to paint, and at one point I thought I was gonna be a sculptor. I just really loved to create in every particular way. And my dad, early on, I wanted to shoot, and my father had a really cool camera, wouldn't let me use it. It's just kind of a theme, actually. And so I got into high school, and I joined the photography class. So I'm like, hey, Dad, that shiny camera you have over there, I kind of need it for my class. And then, of course, just absolutely fell in love with photography, working in the darkroom and shooting black and white. And I mean, every piece of my soul just wanted to take pictures. So I went through high school, and I worked my way up to being editor, photo editor of the yearbook and newspaper. And I just, kept going with it. And my camera got me into anywhere I wanted to go. And that's actually been the case my whole life, with shooting celebrities and traveling the world and whatever it might be. So I just really loved it. I was never really like a scholastic kid. Like, okay. My parents would celebrate every year that I would actually graduate that year. They're like, oh my God, how did that?
It was a miracle every year.
It's a miracle. But when I picked up the camera, it's like straight A's, straight A's, straight A's, because I loved it, and I was, more of an artist. And so through high school, photographer, graduated high school, didn't have the grades for college, didn't really want to go to college. Right after graduating, I was 17 years old, and my dad and I started assisting for one of the top photographers of the area.
Okay.
And I was doing really good, and I was really lucky to have the job. And my dad was like, first of all, let me say he supports me now. He's like the best. He's really amazing. But back in the day, he was like, boy, you need to get a real job. Vietnam vet, female contractor. There's no way you're going to make a living at this, So he said, you're either going to get another job or you're going to get out of the house. So I left. I actually packed my bags in the middle of the night and drove to Miami. Where I think I had $200 and literally was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. this is, I love this so much. So, and back then there were no cell phones or anything like that. They just knew that I had disappeared, and I was gone for a few months until I finally got to the point where like, you have a collect call from your son, Troy, in Miami. I've never really told this story so much, like this detail, but anyways, that's kind of the gist of it. So my whole thing was my love for photography, and I had also this motivation. I mean, I hate to say this, but to prove people wrong. Like, listen, I'm going to show you, right? And so as I kind of went through my career, started a studio very early, shooting, lots of celebrities and moving my way up very quickly within the industry. By the time I was like 30, 32, I had achieved all of my goals. Like everything I wanted to do, I'd done. So then I was like, oh man, now
what's next?
So photography for me, what was nice was digital came along, and then there was a lot of photographers saying,
like you're learning it all over again in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Sure. Well, it kind of made it easier. It was kind of like cheating, actually. But there were a lot of photographers, a lot of my compadres who were like, digital will never overtake film. It could never be as good as film. And like, there's people just holding on to film so hard.
Right.
And I was like, give me the digital camera. Let's roll. And I think I had the first digital billboard shot in Times Square.
Wow.
And so I just
what was
always...
that for?
For iZod, I shot for a company called PVH, Phillips Van Heusen, for about 14 years, and I shot iZod, Van Heusen, Jeffrey Bean, Arrow, Timberland, Bass, like a lot of their brands.
Okay.
So in conjunction with shooting celebrities with other accounts and stuff like that. But I've always been a freelance photographer. But these guys, I traveled around the world with them, and I had probably dozens of Times Square billboards, and I was really fortunate to work with this company. So as digital came along, everything, at one point I was sending out 17-inch laptops as my portfolio. So
wow.
Yeah. So it was like anything digital. I was just like anything different, I didn't really get bored with straight photography, but I just loved the addition of technology.
Okay.
So I kind of kept going with that. And then I got into photogrammetry. In 2013, I did a TED Talks on the future of photography.
Yeah.
And talked a lot about 3D and all these sort of things. And I've been animating images for years. And so what happened last year is we developed an app called Plotaverse.
Right.
And it's a play on photography, photograph, Plotograph, and my name just kind of happens to kind of,
it works with
rhyme.
Yeah.
It works with. So that app went number one in the App Store. We got 2017 voted App of the Year by several outlets, and
I remember seeing it in the App Store for what you guys were doing and that kind of thing, and thinking it was super cool. So I remember seeing that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah, I never knew that I would be a tech entrepreneur. That's what I kind of start off with. What happened was photography, like the day rates started to tank.
Right.
And so as digital came along, I'm like, digital. And all of a sudden, like, it made it much easier to be a photographer. And then we have stock that came along, and then all these other sort of things. And I just, I love playing at the top, and it just got really crowded with, a hard way to make a living. You know, my other passion is I have 3 children,
Yeah.
you know, and just, you know, that's a whole other story. It's just, you know, amazing having the kids and stuff. So, but it's, you know, I'm the breadwinner of the family, so I need to make money. So I saw the writing on the wall and I said, listen, photographers, I kind of see where this is going. A lot of our budgets were moving to video. So I said, what can we do? I said, this animation thing that we've been doing for years is tough to do. It took about 4 different applications to actually do it.
Yeah.
And I said, if anybody ever created an app that could do this in one fell swoop easily, they would be a millionaire. I don't know. It would be like, it would be, you know, something that's needed and wanted, and creating a tool for photographers to monetize their business, and something else that they can compete within the video realm.
That's so cool. And so you took up that mantle and said, this is the battle I'm going to fight. I'm going to create this. And you kind of are, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I got down to no cameras. I had 2 studios.
Wow.
And I sold, to pay for the coding initially, I just sold all of my gear.
Wow.
I started selling the lights, grip, cameras. I got down to my last camera. I'm like, no. No, actually, I was like, full on, as passionate as I am about photography, I knew it was going to come back. I said, all right, this is too important, because this is not just about me. It's creating something for the future for photographers and photography. And then from where that's kind of growing into is just beyond my scope of what I even thought. But so never really had a hesitation, and just kind of went for it. And super glad that I did. We're still, you know, we're new. And so we're still, you know, working hard to get people on the platform and educate people what's going on with motion art. And that's been my new passion over the past year.
So one of the things that you said there was that you're creating a space and a platform that others can use. You're seeing beyond just yourself and what you have to offer. You're seeing what you can offer to the community to support the community and give them an outlet and the tools and resources to do what they're doing. How are you finding significance and purpose in this new season with Plotaverse and what you're creating?
Now, what's fun. So here's the thing: you have the millennials, and then you have Generation Z coming up, right?
Right.
And I'm just learning so much from them, and I'm loving it. Like, I have 3 kids and they're all Generation Z. Okay. And I'm learning from them, and, you know, but they're very collaborative. Yeah. Much more so. I'm Generation X, I'm 48 years old. And with my generation, we were, especially in photography, we were lone wolves. We never talked to each other. Yeah. You know, we're like, I can do this all myself. And you had your team, and it was just more like us against everybody else. Yeah.
You're a ship in the sea, and you're going to try to stay the course that you're on. And if something else gets in the way, you're going to kind of push through that.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And so the new generation's kind of like, not really, they're more like kumbaya, like, hey, we're all in this together, which is how it should be. Right. You know, there's more kind of speaking through their heart than they are what we were kind of sold as the American dream, or you know, and pushing things forward in a more of a corporate sort of way. So it's amazing what's happening. So it's my duty to take the knowledge that I've learned over the past 35 years in photography and pass it and create. Now we have a platform that the artists can truly collaborate with and do things in a way. So we right now we also have contests and challenges set up. And a lot of times within the art world, once again, you're either lone wolf, or you shouldn't really, it's not really a competition. Everybody does their own thing. But in sports, you really are able to rise to the occasion, whether it's football or tennis or basketball or whatever it is. And having that little bit of a challenge makes you better at what you're passionate about, right?
For sure.
So what we've done in Plotaverse is we've created these contests that on a daily basis now artists can go in. We supply them with a really cool image every day. And they now have hundreds of overlays and thousands of ways to animate it. So there's almost like a million different ways that you could take and create your own reality with this image.
Wow.
And so that's what the artists do, is they vote for each other and they egg each other on, and it's this camaraderie thing. And of course they want to win, but it really pushes them to the next level. And so that's kind of what I'm overseeing right now. And I edit the feed. So on the app itself, the made curated feed, I've actually curated every image that's ever gone through the platform. We have hundreds of thousands of images. So I have my finger on the pulse of internationally, like what's going on, what kind of techniques, what kind of apps, what kind of filters, whatever it is. And now we have, videographers on our platform. We have painters, we have illustrators, and of course we have photographers, and then people who just really love all the above. And it's fun. It's creating itself, and I get to sit here and kind of like help steer it.
One of the things we always ask every guest, and I think it's really important because so often we hear the stories of the exciting things happening and how we're all changing the world, and often we overlook that it's still hard. It's not an easy journey always. And you talked a little bit about the things you gave up, selling your equipment and really choosing where you want to invest, knowing that you'd come full circle, but that for a season you had to sacrifice much to gain much. For you right now, what is one challenge you're currently working to overcome in what you're growing in the business?
The main challenge for us has been to not have to go the VC route yet.
Yeah.
And that for us, like, I didn't even know what a VC was a couple years ago. I've been a self-employed entrepreneur my whole life, but never in this sort of realm, But so early on, we had a lot of interest, and we had a lot of people come in and want to invest, and we had a couple of VC firms, and we went back and forth. And one VC, we were in a meeting, and there were some people in this room that were kind of famous that we kind of all know, but I'm not going to name names. Yeah. But the VC says to me, he's like, Troy, he said, we need to put you in a box. And because I'm like, la, 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 this is what we're going to do. Oh my God, it's gonna be amazing. And so Sasha looks at me. This is my partner, my girlfriend, and my co-founder. And she's absolutely amazing. And she's like, oh no. He just told Troy. And I said, honestly, dude, come on. Nobody puts me in a box. Look at what we've done. This is how we've gotten here. The last thing you want to do is put me in a box. Right. So we all had a good laugh about it and stuff. But if I would have followed the direction that they wanted to go, or that they were trying to, kind of like put a few stops on a few things, we would not be here. We would not even be having this conversation. Wow. So for me, it's like, okay, so how do we get everything set with my vision? And then, because I think hitting an A round is going to be necessary for us to kind of bring this, where we know it can be. For me, I just wanted it to be in a place that I knew that couldn't be disrupted. And I'm feeling really good about that now. And so is my whole team. There's 8 of us. Most of my team actually are my production crew from photography.
Okay. Yeah.
So we kind of pride ourselves in saying, this is not just a regular tech company. This is, created by artists for artists. Yeah. Because none of us have a tech background. Yeah. I was just really fortunate to be able to connect with a really great group of coders. But for Michael, I was eating bagels, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and Sasha and I'll laugh. We're scraping change together for food. Like it was really, it's like everything went into the code, and we're like, how are we going to do this? And then investment wise, we're friends and family. We had just, friends of ours that I would just pick up the phone, like, hey, we're doing this really cool thing. What do you think? And through my years of kind of building that trust, we had a few friends come in and say, oh, Troy, I got your back, man. Let's, I'll come in for whatever, amount this is. And it's minimal, but we are here not just by ourselves and selling all our stuff. We had people believe in us. And Sasha and I, crashed on couches. When we started, we are in Florida. We lived in Florence, Italy for a bit. We lived in New York for a bit, LA, Santa Barbara, and now we're in Maui, digital nomad style. Wow. So, and it was always my dream to live in Maui. And as a photographer, I just didn't know how that could be possible because I did so much traveling. But now that I am still shooting, of course, but now that we have a tech company, we're here and I'm able to shoot images here on Maui and then provide them for free to the community. So that's my giving back as a photographer, is I'm shooting these really beautiful locations and giving them as free stock to our community, to our members. to animate, to Photoshop, do whatever they want. Go like take the images and go monetize them. Like literally, like Photoshop, add some palm trees, whatever you want to do, and go roll. Go make some money, and do whatever you need to do, or go express yourself, however it is that you want.
So cool. So where do you go from here? What is the next big goal you have for Plotaverse?
Gosh, it's just doing what we're doing. So motion art is the focus as of right now. Right. And we're the only community.
So let's pause there, because some people listening are going to go, motion art, what does that mean? So let's define that.
Okay, absolutely. So the big push right now is motion art, and motion art are these images that, it's anywhere from like 2 seconds, or actually on our platform, it's a half-second loop up to probably around 30 seconds or so generally. Yeah. And now that Facebook and Instagram and all the different social platforms will auto loop videos, we've created a way to trick the system where you take a photograph, animate it, put an overlay on it, and it creates this really great imagery that especially the younger generation is just loving. Yeah. Photography stills for a lot of the younger generations are just kind of like, I don't want to say old school, but they're not holding the attention like a video does, or motion art, I should say, too.
So cool. So cool. We'll be right back and jump into our second segment where we dive deeper into this and some of Troy's story. Hey, we like you, and we hope you like us. If you do, let's be friends on Instagram. So swing on over to Instagram. You can find us, Jumblethink, and follow us. We'll follow you, and we'll start the conversation and go so much deeper into the concept of being dreamers and idea makers. So swing on over to Instagram right now. Follow us. We'll follow you, and let's be friends. Now let's return to our conversation with Christopher Plota. We are back with Troy and talking so much more in depth about some of the topics we talked about in segment one. So Troy, you mentioned in segment one about this generational shift where Gen Xers were, I've got my own camp, I've got my own spot, I hang out here, I've got maybe my team around me, I've got my customers, and we're an island to ourselves doing our thing. And now this next generation and the generation after them, they're looking at a new model. They're saying, hey, the way that we've done this isn't sustainable, or maybe it's more of we just don't like playing that game. Tell us a little bit about that discovery as you're working with people who are outside of the way that you think, working with the next generation, your kids you talked about. How has that shift begun to, well, I guess the better question is, how are you approaching that shift? Because it's so hard to make those pivots in thinking and philosophy when it's so outside the norm of what you've experienced in the past.
I came to it kicking and screaming. Okay. I came to a realization. I'm like, come on, people. I've been just going so fast and so hard for so many years for survival. It's like having my own company and just, doing the things that I thought I was supposed to do, and making money. And a lot of it became money based. And as you become a parent, that's just kind of somewhat by necessity, but I think things have changed so much. And as my assistants would come up, I would learn from my assistants as much as they would learn from me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, come on, the thing, and it's the photography industry is like musical chairs, and the chairs kept disappearing and disappearing. And it's kind of scary, the day rates that we used to really enjoy years ago, even 20 years ago. I think my highest day rate was like it was $35,000 for the day for me to step on set.
Wow.
And that was like, of course, like, the pinnacle of like amazingness. But you had normal sort of day rates that were good and you can make a good living at it. But now it's, I don't know, it's tough. The way that the whole industry has changed, a lot of the budgets have gone to video, so, and a lot of the guys in my generation are kind of getting squeezed out. So you have a lot of this data that, obviously an older generation is going to have, but everything's changing so fast that it's not even, you can't even comprehend that it would even have happened 10 years ago.
Wow. So you didn't even see it happening necessarily, but all of a sudden one day it's arrived and you're just like, how did we get here from such a standard practice? Now it's not being done that way. When you faced that challenge, how did you begin to overcome that or see, hey, maybe it's time for me to go do something different?
Well, I was somewhat kind of forced into it because for many years I had campaigns for a long time, for many years, and part of my success was establishing relationships.
Okay.
A lot of my competition, I should say, in the industry, they would get a job and just nickel and dime it to death. Like, let me add this, let me add that, not really caring or knowing if they would get booked again. My goal was always to establish these relationships.
Yeah.
So
looking for the long game, not the
long game.
immediate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as that went on and I had these campaigns and then things would just a lot of things went in house. So that's what happened is the freelance photographer, like a lot of the companies started bringing things in house.
Yeah.
So Sasha and I, at one point, we moved to Florence, Italy to do a personal project. And then when we moved back to New York, I'm like, all right, I'm going to jump back in this and go back out and meet with all my art director friends and see what's going on. And I saw the day rates were like half to a quarter of what they used to be.
Wow.
Even a few years before that. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. So what happened was a lot of photographers started working as director and DPs. That's what I did. I was working as director and DP for video, but it's different, So one of the gifts that I have from doing this is I was able to kind of now become friends with a lot of people I'd never spoken to, like people I was, going up against with jobs for years and that sort of thing. And it turns out we have the same story.
Wow.
Like we're all saying the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm working as a director DP, but it's just not the same. So Sasha and I decided, like, let's just jump into this. I know that motion art is going to be the wave of the future. Yeah. It's a way for artists to express themselves in a visual way that goes beyond just the static image. And what's fun about motion art is there's just so many. It's not just like an extra tool. It's like adding a million tools because you can add so many different animations and overlays and stuff. Yeah. So we're so glad that we did, and then just learning all the lessons along the way as far as what it takes to be in the tech world. But it's fun. It's interesting.
Well, and collaboration. It sounds like as you've moved into the space of embracing this collaborative environment, that you're learning a lot of things that you wouldn't have learned or experienced just by being your own kind of thing, your own freelancer doing your thing. You've got your team. And so that's kind of the space in which this intellectual property, this understanding sat, was just in that sphere. And now because of collaboration, it seems like what you're saying is things are able to be done that maybe you guys didn't dream or imagine, or because you're working in a setting where there's cross-pollination, one person's idea and another person's idea are married to bring something completely different together. Is that fair?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And everything that I initially thought I was creating this for changed so much because it turns out I thought our main customer were going to be photographers. Yeah. And it turns out not to be the case because what we found is a lot of photographers don't have the time for it. Right. Like because so it's like this time thing is a photographer a lot of times is an adventurer. They want to be out and about and shooting, whether it's landscapes or models or whatever it is, that now that there's just not this time for to animate or for them to become really good at it, so what they've done is they've now kind of partnered up with animators, with motion art animators, and it's almost a whole realm in itself of artistic expression. So that's been really fun to see the collaboration, because back in the day, 20 years ago, that didn't really happen. You wouldn't really let anybody touch your image. Right. So this younger generation is like, oh, dude, that's so awesome. I would never thought of that, and they just ride the wave, and they're on Instagram and hopefully soon to be Plotaverse. And they're out there, just doing really cool things. And it's a great way to be, for sure.
Well, and it's kind of interesting. I remember a couple of years ago, Nine Inch Nails did a thing where they said, here are all of our music stems. Put together your own arrangement of this song. And they opened it up to the community to do stuff. And it sounds like what you're saying is that what DJs have been doing for years, where they've taken music and put their own beats or arrangements over it. That's what's happening in the world of photography, where you have, or even videography for that matter, where it's like, here's the initial asset, and then people are remixing it, or they're arranging it in their own way and their own interpretation, in the photo or video space too.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. I didn't realize that Trent Reznor did that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Leave it to Trent Reznor, right? I mean, the guy's amazing.
Right. Yeah, it was a whole big competition. It was interesting what some people put out. Some of it was great, and a lot of it wasn't. So
well, that's what we do on Plotaverse is I edit the feed. So we have, thousands of images that are loaded a day. And then I go through and I kind of like pop, 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 the ones that are super creative. And then you have even just images one way or the other. If it's a great animation, I'll put it on the feed with a good image, or vice versa. It's just what's different, and then a lot of times, like, we'll have somebody new join the community, and they're new because they're doing something that we've never seen before. Right. And then, the men and women, or the guys and girls who are on our platform right now, they'll be like, oh my gosh, how did you do that? I wouldn't have thought to combine that, Yeah. So it's just pushing the limits of creativity in a really collaborative environment. And the other thing is, like, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook or even Twitter, it's like it can get kind of trolly sometimes, and artists can be pretty sensitive. So we really have a community that's very much based from the heart, and we don't really put up with that. We don't really have that, actually. Occasionally we do, like, hey, we don't really talk that way here.
Yeah.
Or, if you don't, necessarily agree with them, that's okay. It's totally cool. Yeah. But there's just a way of saying it. And so that's what we've created. This is the safe space for artists to collaborate and share and all this sort of things, but pushing the limits at the same time.
Yeah, and you need that in collaboration. You need that in community, and that new person comes in and they're doing something, and people are like loving it. You want them to be open to share, but if somebody comes in and they're learning, you want to be able to be critical of them in a constructive way that builds what they're doing for a better future, not rips them apart for devastation. Right,
exactly. It's kind of like that. It's either that coach that's like, "Come on, kids, let's go," or it's like, "Good job there, little Johnny. Get up there, everybody." It's not what you do; it's how you do it.
Right, for sure. You did a TEDx talk on the future of photography. Very, very cool. If you haven't watched it, you probably should go out and do that right away, because there's some great things in there. And the takeaway for me that I thought was really fun is you talked about what if and your dream to doing sculpture and how that turned into photography, but you've always come back to that what if. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've never watched that TEDx, by the way.
Oh, interesting.
I can't, even the podcast, I can't confront it. I'm like, oh my gosh, look at how I look. Oh my gosh. I just do stuff and I move on. I roll, I think when I'm an old man down the line, I'm going to watch that TEDx finally today. But mainly kind of what came from that. And so here's the main thing is the what if, and putting like a postulate or a thought out into the universe. Yeah. And then we all, we want it to come true now. We want it to, let's go, let's roll. Right. Like, that's one of the things in this lifetime.
Today.
I want to arrive today. Exactly. Yeah. So, one of the things that I talk about a lot of times is I'll say, gosh, I need to take my own advice. Like, look at here, I do this TED Talks and talking about, these things that as a child, I wanted to be a sculptor. Yeah. And then here it comes full circle. As a photographer, I'm able to actually do a 3D print sculpture through my photography. Like, dude, come on. In a million years, you would have never thought that was possible. So now what's going to happen in the next 20 years? So for me, what we're doing now is just trying to create tools for artists to be able to express themselves. And we were like, initially in the App Store, we're like, okay, what are the keywords that'll be good for Plotaverse and Plotaverse photo, video editors, and getting all the right words in there. I'm like, you know what? Here's the deal. create your reality. We have these tools for you to create your own reality, basically.
Yeah.
And where that will go, who knows? I mean, we the way that we've set it up, we can go all the way up to VR.
Yeah.
So the way that we've coded it is we can grow. Right now we're in motion art, and you asked earlier like what our plans are. We are going to include photo, we are going to include videos. We're working on adaptive streaming right now, so we're going to have our own stories, and we're going to have our own live stories.
Okay.
So this is going to be a full community of anything goes, like basically capability as far as like how can you push yourself as an artist, and then on top of it, monetize it, because there's so many other platforms out there that's, it's about likes and follows, and it's a neat game and stuff, but well, come on, you got to make some money. And that's my old school thing. Like, come on, man, you got to pay the rent.
Yeah.
So if I have anything to give, and you want to say it's an old school, come on, the facts are the facts. If you want to travel and do these things, you have to work. So why not monetize your passions? Yeah. So that's what we're doing, is we're creating a marketplace in Plotaverse also for artists to be able to sell their content to brands and whoever else it might be who's looking at agencies and stuff. We have agencies and brands that are included within our platform. Yeah. So we're letting them know, like, listen, this is the world's largest community of motion art. So if you're looking for something, if you're searching for something, whether it's morphs or plotographs or cinemagraphs or video, whatever it might be, you'll find it here, and you'll find the best talent in the world here. Yeah. And so how can I help these artists monetize? And that's kind of like one of my jobs.
So cool. Now, you talked about monetizing this for creators. We are in a time in history in which it seems like everyone is a wedding photographer, or everyone's a videographer, everyone's doing X, Y, and Z. They're an author, and we have these great tools and outlets so that people can engage with things and create things that 15, 20, 30 years ago just wasn't possible on the budgets that we have. How can we, I guess, two questions here. One, how can we make this sustainable so that people can create careers out of this space? You talked about, in photography world, things drying up and changing. But then beyond that, how do we cut the clutter or the noise? Because it seems like so many people are creating. How do we begin to filter through and find the gold, find the amazing things that are hidden there, that are being covered up by the things that just don't matter?
Well, now that we have this digital world, and we have social media, and we have these ways for somebody in Indonesia, for some reason, we have a big portion of our community is from Indonesia. Okay. I don't know why, but they seem like really cool people. They have beautiful waterfalls there. Oh, wow. So it's kind of like that. That's actually an example right there is it seems like they have a waterfall in every block in Indonesia. Okay. So if a company like Coca-Cola what we're doing is we're trying to marry the brands and the agencies with the creatives. Okay. And so if somebody's looking for something, you have your Getty stock, and the different stock companies. I'm not sure if any are left anymore. I think Getty's maybe purchased them all at this point.
There's a couple. There's the Envato group, and then there's the Getty stuff.
Yeah, so Envato's awesome too.
Yeah, I love them.
Yeah, me too. They have some really great content there too. But so it's how can somebody now monetize what they have in their backyard, right? So that's kind of what we're doing, is we're creating a place for them to do that, and creating a marketplace for them to be able to sell. Now it's it's not what it used to be, unfortunately, and that's what I'm racking my brain trying to figure out, is how can we provide something for somebody to be able to monetize their passions. Mm-hmm. And we're working on that now. And I don't have it yet, actually. I'm working hard, knowing that all of a sudden something's going to flip, something's going to switch on, and we're gonna be like, okay, that's it. But just know that we're at the forefront of this, because I don't want to, I couldn't really say, yeah, you can go out and, with your camera and you can make a living tomorrow. It takes a while, you really have to put the time and energy and passion and, to hone your skills and stuff. So it's just be patient, and and just know that you have people there who are doing everything that we can to help, and that's what we're doing with our community. I have one of our top animators is a plumber.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he's amazing. He now has articles written on him. Wow. His Shaq is like one of his biggest fans.
Okay.
He actually brought Shaq to the community. Shaq's animation name is Plotaverse.
Oh, okay.
And he's working on his way. He has 4 kids, and he's almost to the point where he can quit his job and only animate. Wow. So that's where, to me, is like, that's my passion as far as to help find these realms. And the answer really is the brands, because they have to have content every day that they're posting on social and ads that they're doing and stuff. So the pressure is not only on the artists, but it's also on the brands and the agencies. Yeah. So it's just the simple thing is how do you marry the two and provide a community in a way of, for somebody to go in and purchase the images. And a lot of times the artists don't have the business skills. So we're trying to automate that also to where it makes it simple, almost Vivado style. So, you brought up Vivado and you notice how there's different artists that sell within that community. Absolutely. And that's kind of what we're doing. But more putting it in control of the artist to where they actually have their own storefront where they're able to sell their images. And then we promote them as we have contests and artists of the day and different ways of promoting and stuff. It's it's going to be an easier way for the brands and agencies to find the artists and the talent. Super cool. I have to ask, has Shaq created anything yet? Yeah, definitely. His girlfriend is his favorite subject. Fun. One of the things that you're passionate about is helping people fulfill their purpose and their destiny. The things that they're passionate about, you love helping them get there. How is this platform, what does it mean to you to be able to see this platform being used to do that and really unlock possibilities for people who maybe thought that their dreams, the things that were very much at their core weren't possible. Now they're seeing an outlet where it could be possible. Well, I go back to when I was younger and not necessarily having the support initially of what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a photographer. Yeah. And knowing that that's the case, a lot of times, the way our society is now, I always kind of like go back and forth and, you have managers and you have artists. Yeah. I have a theory, managers, artists, and pirates. I have this whole theory of managers, artists, and pirates. Okay. So our society basically wants to make managers for the most part. They want you to go to school. They want you to sit down. They want you to behave. I always hated artists that. I know, right? Me too. Like I barely wake up educational system. Get it right. Not everyone's created the same. Anyway, exactly. Sorry, side thing, pet peeve of mine. Totally. So I think to those artists, those kids now who are going through that and who are thinking and maybe not having the support and that sort of thing. Although, I feel like our generation's got really good about raising kids. I think that we're getting really better and we're really understanding and listening to them and seeing what their passions are. And they're not really having any of it. Like we have no other choice other than to be that way because they're like, listen, I see what the heck's going on. And that game, I don't know about that game. So we just are creating this community for a safety net for being supportive. And right now we're in Maui. We're based in Maui now. We've moved the company to Maui. And I'm going to be doing lots of videos talking about this. So we're waiting on our adaptive streaming. It should be like another month or so until this is out, where I can go do live videos and do stories and just talk about this and answer questions and be able to interact with our community. And once again, have a safe place for people to go and support each other. And the way that we've coded it is it's mobile, tablet, and computer friendly. It's not just mobile. Yeah. So somebody, and I think that was really important because you could actually, if you can't afford a website, you don't have the coding ability, you could actually use your profile page as your website on Plotaverse. Yeah. It fully sets up. You can customize it, put your name on there, have different portfolios set up. So it's a professional way that once you get exposed to the brands and you catch somebody's eye, they have actually a way of looking at it that's not just mobile. It's not, because if somebody's sitting there at Gray Advertising in New York City, they're not going to pop on their phone to judge whether they're going to book somebody. right?
For
They're
sure.
going to be sitting there on their computer, hopefully with a big screen going, whoa, this is awesome. And a lot of people are spending a lot of time on Instagram and stuff. And usually, Instagram is mostly, especially for motion art, doesn't really autoplay and auto loop on desktop. So we've set this up for artists to really, for success and for them to be able to get out there and put their best foot forward.
Very cool. How can people find, connect, and engage with what you're building? How can they become part of your story and you a part of theirs?
Well, on the App Store, Play Store, just search Plotaverse and you'll find us there. Also, we're for Mac and PC, and you can download it at plotaverse.com. And then plotaverseapps.com is our website that shows you the whole ecosystem of lots of samples and all that good stuff.
Super cool. And we'll put all those links in the episode notes so they're easy to find. In a moment, we'll be back with Troy and our rapid fire questions. The Jumblethink team has worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs and business owners, moving their ideas from the idea stage and into reality. We would love to be your partner in turning your ideas into reality too. You can learn more about our consulting and coaching services at jumblethink.com/helpme. That's jumblethink.com/helpme. And then let's start the conversation and see if we're a good fit for you in coaching you and working through those issues you have and turning your dreams into reality. Now let's jump into our rapid fire questions with Troy Christopher Plota. We're back with Troy and rapid fire questions. Troy, are you ready for rapid fire questions?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Our first question is, what is one tip you'd give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
Start with your heart. Just think through your heart, and that's the place to begin.
So good. What is one change you'd like to see in the world?
More collaboration with not just artists, but with communities and nations and all that good stuff.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Artists that helped artists.
Cool. Where do you find inspiration?
Everywhere.
Okay, so here's our new question. We're trying it out. We've tried it out in a couple episodes. We love this question. I hope you do too. The question is, what is one trend that gets you excited right now?
Motion art.
Okay, cool. And then what is one book you think every dreamer entrepreneur should read and why?
Oh, gosh. Creative Visualization.
Okay, who's that by? Do you know?
Shakti Gawan.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
What's one tool that's significant for the success of your business?
Apple products.
Apple products there.
And that's just the first thing that came to mind. I'm a Apple guy from the early 90s.
Yeah.
Everything I've created and been able to do, they've really done a great job to provide tools for artists.
I love it too. I'm on a Mac right here. So what is one habit you find helpful in your life as an entrepreneur?
Finding quiet time.
Okay. How's that help you?
Not to be so crazy because I run at a very fast pace generally.
Yeah.
And that's where, like, I'll even just waking up in the mornings and you're listening to your intuition.
Yeah. How do you start and finish your day?
Fast and hard. I don't know. Like I wake up and bam, let's roll. And I don't know. Like I said, I run at a very fast pace. But I've been working out now, which is a change, which is good. And and now that we're in Maui, every evening we watch the sunsets. It's absolutely beautiful.
That's very cool. If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
Gosh, I don't even know. I can't even imagine. I really don't know.
What is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
My kids, I really would love for the kids to work with me in this. And one of my sons already is. Oh, cool. But down the line, having this as a family business.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you have the final thought. So what's the final thought you'd like to leave us with?
The final thought is just, to find in your heart what your dreams are and what makes you happy, and, take the advice of the people who love you and stuff, but just really go with your own heart and do all the things that you need to do to be happy.
Very, very cool. Troy, it's been a lot of fun having you on the podcast. Thanks for taking time out, sharing your story, and sharing what you're building with us.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it so much.
Once again, I want to thank today's guest, Troy Christopher Plota, for taking time out, sharing his story, and giving us some insights into the world of Plotaverse. If you want to connect up with him or learn more about Plotaverse, make sure you check the episode notes for links to how you can find them. Our guest on Monday's episode is Patrick McGinnis. It's going to be a lot of fun, so make sure to swing back on Monday for that episode. I want to thank you, the listener, for taking time out and being a part of today's episode. It's an honor to have you along to listen to our amazing guests, and I hope it's encouraged you on your journey. If you have big ideas and dreams, they should be pursued. They should be made reality. I want to encourage you today. Take a step, any step, a big step, a small step, but a step forward in making that dream, making that idea a reality. So go out there, chase your dreams, make them a reality, and change the world around you.
Les mères de famille, les enfants, peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps. Vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.